high school student goes out in the middle of the night.
There are few people as comfortable and as confident as a couple of 18-year-old boys walking around late at night in a small town.
He says he'll be back before morning, but he's never seen again.
I did not take it seriously at first because I thought that he's probably got drunk, passed out at somebody else's house.
It was really like he just sort of was gone. You know, one minute he was at his friend's house and then he left and then no one saw him again.
A small town searches for answers.
I wanted revenge, to be honest. I wanted to find out who did it.
Thompson is the biggest city in northern Manitoba, with a population of nearly 14,000 people. The city is originally founded in 1956 as a mining town, thanks to its proximity to large nickel deposits. The mines around Thompson are rich enough that the city at one point makes up 11% of the entire world's nickel production. Thanks to its relative size, Thompson becomes the hub of the North, helping provide goods and services of all kinds to surrounding communities.
I think over time it's evolved to become more of a service center for a lot of the communities around. Like there's the hospital, shopping, you know, all the amenities that they don't have in smaller communities.
Thompson sits in the heart of Canada's boreal forest. It's surrounded by undisturbed nature, making it a beautiful destination for outdoor enthusiasts. There's the Millennium Trail, a 15-kilometer hike and bike loop that goes around the city, with sections that pass through the boreal forest.
Thompson community is very powerful. Powerful small community where everybody's connected with everybody. And for me, when I grew up in Thompson or spent half of my life in Thompson, it's pretty positive in my personal experience. Lots of positive people, hockey, basketball's really big in there, and the sports community I love very, very much.
But there's a darker side to Thompson's reputation. Thompson's been reported as having one of the highest crime rates in Canada.
Thompson, you know, does frequently appear pretty much every year at the sort of top of the Stats Canada Crime Severity Index, like whether it's just in general crime or violent crime.
Despite these worrying statistics, many Thompson residents take pride in the strength and resilience of their community.
I totally believe it's about the culture and from what happened in the history. Thompson is not only Thompson by itself, because there's a lot of small community that surrounded Thompson. So I truly believe in myself that not the people who actually grew up in Thompson that's causing all of the trouble, but the people who's from the surrounding community that goes in there, causes trouble, and now Thompson is claiming all of the bad names from what happened.
And then when you get some more serious aggravated assaults, you know, the occasional homicide, that really drives it up because it's based on per capita, and with a small population, that really swings it. That makes up a part of the reason. And I think, the police would say it's sort of the central hub of like drug trafficking in northern Manitoba. So that plays a role too, There's people involved in drugs having disputes with each other that they can't go to the police about.
Nicholas Brophy is born in Thompson on September 11th, 1996.
He is this ball of energy that when you see him, he'll smile at you and, a couple hours later, you guys are friends.
He's a very active person, enjoying many extreme sports like quadding, dirt biking, skateboarding, and snowboarding. This active lifestyle shows up in his school life as well, where he runs track as well as playing on the soccer and basketball teams.
If someone had said, the name Nicholas Brophy to me, I would have known in my mind who it was, because in my job, we used to do a lot of high school sports, so he was a really good soccer player, so that's the main thing I remember seeing him do, was playing soccer when they would have tournaments here.
Nicholas is incredibly social and known for putting other people first.
I was 15 years old. I just moved in Thompson, Manitoba from Philippines, and I started going into school, and that's where I start to meet them, because Nicholas Brophy is actually a very good friends with a lot of immigrants that goes into Artie Parker Collegiate.
And he keeps just as close with his family as he does with his friends. Nicholas has made countless memories at his grandparents' cabin and spends a lot of time at his sister's house, helping her with her 2 children. It's Tuesday, September 8th, 2015. Nicholas and his friends are starting up a new year in high school. It's the start of his senior year, a time when most students are thinking about their futures and moving on to the next stage of their lives.
Like most kids, Nicholas uses his cell phone to be in near constant communication with his friends.
At approximately 10:30 in the evening, Nicholas decides to go see his friend Eden. Nicholas tells his mother not to worry about him, that he'll be back home before morning. He was excited for school the next day. She trusts him. She lets him go. Nicholas and Eden smoke some pot together, but it isn't long before Nicholas decides he needs to go. Eden gets up to leave with Nicholas, deciding to walk with him at least part of the way. The 2 friends are together until around 10:50 p.m.
There are few people as comfortable and as confident as a couple of 18-year-old boys walking around late at night in a small town.
Joking as they walk along, the boys don't worry about danger in the relatively small city. Nicholas and Eden part ways at a stop sign, where Eden turns and heads back home. Nicholas continues to walk around Thompson.
We don't know where Nicholas is heading, but we do know from when he left Eden's house with Eden that he's walking for at least 20 minutes.
He's texting with multiple people, keeping the conversations going through much of the evening, but there reaches a point where he stops responding entirely. On the night of September 8th, 2015, just 3 days before Nicholas turns 19, he disappears from the street and is never seen alive again. Thompson is a small city in northern Manitoba with a population of nearly 14,000 people. The city acts as the hub of the North, helping the smaller communities around it and connecting them to the services they need. Thompson is a city known for being close to nature, surrounded by the natural beauty of Canada's boreal forest. Nicholas Brophy, a sociable and athletic student, is starting his senior year of high school. On the evening of September 8th, 2015, just 3 days before Nicholas's birthday, he goes to hang with his friend Eden. But something goes awry as he walks home alone that night. On the morning of September 9th, Tammy leaves some lunch money for Nicholas to bring to school. Over lunch, she comes home and finds that the money she left is still there. It's obvious to her that Nicholas hasn't been home. Had he come back from his friend's home the previous night, or just missed the cash on the table as he left that morning? The money is the first sign that something might be wrong, but it's nothing definitive enough to worry her just yet.
You know, there are countless reasons why a teen wouldn't take the lunch money. It might be as simple as they just didn't see it on the counter. But when his mother doesn't see or hear from him later on in the evening, it's hard not to worry.
It isn't until the evening that Tammy really starts to get anxious. She starts contacting Nicholas's friends, trying to find anyone who might be with him. When Tammy reaches out to Nicholas's friends, she gets the same answers each time. The last time anyone saw him was the previous night, and he never made it to school that day.
So I remember, initially it started out as a case of a missing person, he just didn't show up at home one night. His family were searching for him, trying to find some information because it was really like he just sort of was gone. 1 minute he was at his friend's house and then he left and then no one saw him again.
Eden asks around school about what happened to Nicholas after the two parted ways, but no one else has heard from him since that night. Eden learns that Nicholas had been texting at least 2 people that night. Lisa reveals that Nicholas stopped responding at approximately 11:10 p.m., and a second friend shares a similar story, saying he stopped responding at 11:09 p.m.
Text messages can be very useful in establishing a timeline because, while eyewitness accounts can vary and we don't know when people were last seen, text messages contain timestamps, so you can tell exactly when someone stopped looking at their phone or was unable to look at their phone anymore.
That means Nicholas was texting people for 20 minutes after he and Eden had parted ways and never made it home.
I received a text messages from his girlfriend on that time. Nicholas Brophy is missing. I did not take it seriously at first because I thought that he's probably got drunk, passed out at somebody else's house. That's my first thought process. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing serious. It's only been 10 hours since he was missing. For me, that is a very typical behavior for Nicholas Brophy because we used to hang out a lot and sometimes we sleep over at our friend's house. And Nicholas Brophy have a lot of friends in Thompson. That's why I did not panic at all on that first night that he got missing because my thought process is just like, he probably just passed out at somebody else's house.
Another day passes without anyone hearing from Nicholas at all, leaving little room for anyone to believe he could just be out with friends. Tammy can't help but grow more anxious over what has happened to her son. Out of resources to find Nicholas herself, Tammy goes to the police to report her son as missing.
From what I have remembered, after 3 to 4 days, that's when we start to involve cops, start to involve everybody, spread the messages around the town to make sure that he's okay, because we want to make sure that he's fine at that time.
It's a popular misconception that people have to wait 48 hours before they can file a missing persons report with the police. In fact, it's well known that the greatest chance of success at finding a missing person is when police can take action soon after they're reported missing, and they should be reported missing as soon as something is believed to be wrong.
But from everything Nicholas's family and friends have been able to learn, it's as if he just disappeared. With no trail to trace, police will need to marshal all of their resources if they hope to discover what's happened to Nicholas Brophy. Nicholas Brophy is just starting his senior year of high school. He's a very active student, playing on the school's soccer team, basketball team, and running track. He's sociable and friendly, known for putting both his friends and his family before himself. On the night of September 8th, 2015, Nicholas leaves his home at 10:30 p.m. He tells his mother, Tammy, that he'll be home before morning. But Nicholas never returns, and after days of searching, it looks like he's completely vanished.
I started to worry after 2 days because I'm texting him, no respond. I text all of our close friends, no respond at all. And yes, that's when I start to become worried about him, and that's when I start to take it seriously.
Nicholas is reported missing, and the search begins in earnest. Family, friends, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Canadian Rangers, and the Office of the Fire Commissioner all come together with the hope of finding him.
Numbers are key to any search party, really. The greater the number of people looking for the missing person, the greater the likelihood that they'll be found safe.
Everyone helps the search in any way they can, from physically searching around the city to making calls to the local hospital or anywhere else Nicholas may have ended up. At school, Nicholas's friends canvass the student body, hoping someone has information about his whereabouts. No matter how hard they search, no new information is found. There are multiple search attempts, with 50 to 100 people coming out to help each time. But no matter how many people they get to help, no one is able to find him. Without any leads, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police elicit the public for information, asking homeowners to check their backyards, sheds, or any outbuildings. By November of 2015, the family adds a $20,000 reward for anyone who comes forward with information leading to his whereabouts.
Many people were thinking about that he moved away, because from what I remember is he's actually having a trouble with his girlfriend as well on that time. So some part of me hoping that he moved away, but some part of me are actually worrying because winter's approaching. We always want to make sure that he's okay.
As the months pass into early 2016, the family begins trying to raise money for a larger reward. They have an online profile set up to take in donations and put together a bingo night to raise even more. By April 24th, 2016, the Brophy family increases the reward to $50,000.
You know, they managed to generate a large reward, and they were advertising and putting his picture out that he was missing, and just really, you know, trying to generate any information about him, because I think it was something that was, you know, really out of character for him to not be in touch with his family and friends, and, you know, no one to be able to get a hold of him, no one to know where he was.
A tip finally comes in, and the police have a suspect. According to the tip, Justin Baker, a student at Nicholas's high school, has just been talking to people about Nicholas's death. After the police bring Justin in for questioning, it doesn't take him long to start talking. Justin describes a wooded area near a power line, where he claims Nicholas's body can be found.
I think the time that went between when he disappeared, which was early, like the first week of September 2015, so I think it was about 8 months later, end of April, beginning of May, when his remains were found in the woods somewhere.
On April 26, 2016, 7.5 months after Nicholas first goes missing, the police are finally able to find answers as to where Nicholas has been all this time.
Police were able to recover a skull, and the way that they positively identified Nicholas was by using a forensic odontologist and previous dental records from Nicholas' visit to a dentist. Teeth are made up of the same sort of material as a bone, so it takes a significant time for either of those to decompose or rot. So that way, if they're made of the same material, that's why they were able to find that skull after Nicholas had been missing for over 8 months.
The investigation proves that the body they find is, in fact, that of Nicholas Brophy. His family is finally given the opportunity to learn where he's been.
At first, I was pretty in denial about it, and I was in shock. I were not gonna accept it until a proper evidence is proven that that's him. I'm just not gonna accept it as a friend, as a person, because it's very tough. It's very tough when your friend went missing and when he found dead. It's very tough for everybody, not only for me.
But this isn't the end. With Nicholas's body found, the missing person case is now being investigated as a homicide. Nicholas's skull has 6 fractures and multiple blunt force injuries.
I wanted revenge, to be honest. I wanted to find out who did it. We want to cause a ruckus in Thompson, of course, because we want to make sure that he get the justice that he deserves. But at the same time, that's not going to be the mature thing to do. And yes, we seek justice during that time.
With Justin in custody, it could be a matter of just getting a confession to close this case. But when Justin starts talking, he reveals he wasn't alone that night. Justin tells the police that he was with 2 other boys that night, Zach Edwin Linklater and Mark Bradley Thomas. The two came by Justin's apartment, and Justin tries to tell them that he's too tired to hang out, but they convince him to let them stay. As the night goes on, the three boys spend their time drinking heavily. Mark allegedly asks Justin, "Who are you down with?" which Justin believes to be a question of whether he has any current gang allegiances. Justin says that he thought it was all for a gang initiation. Nothing was ever explicitly said, but it was the impression that the other guys gave him.
Gang members will often talk in a sort of code when there are other people that aren't part of their gang around. It's a way that they can ensure they don't give up too much information about their group. It's also a way that they can ensure that the people who do understand the language, that they're trustworthy, whether they are trustworthy because of their loyalty or because they're terrified.
His story goes on to claim that Mark pulls out a large butcher knife from Justin's cupboard, claiming, "We'll use this." But he's shut down when Zach instead finds a large metal baton.
A metal baton that was used as a weapon would match the blunt force injuries that were consistent on Nicholas's skull.
Justin's already under the impression that this night is some kind of gang initiation for him. So when he and Mark are both made to take around 50 punches in the stomach, he believes this is more evidence of that initiation. The way Justin puts it, they usually beat you up first. The three of them go out for a walk, taking the metal baton with them. As they drunkenly walk the streets of Thompson, their night of violence is far from over. After some time, they spot Nicholas Brophy walking all alone. Justin claims that Zach is the one to pick Nicholas as their target. Justin recognizes Nicholas from school. They both play basketball and soccer together. When telling his story, he even makes the point of telling the police that he regards Nicholas as a good athlete. Zach tells Mark to attack Nicholas, while making Justin keep lookout. They physically overpower Nicholas, robbing him of his cash, cell phone, and even his glasses, taking away any means of him escaping or calling for help. They have the idea to take Nicholas away, somewhere more remote. Zach says to Justin that we're going to do our first murder. The three of them lead Nicholas down dark streets and into a wooded trail. When they decide they've gone far enough, Zach attempts to strangle Nicholas with a shoelace. He soon decides that isn't working, and instead they brutally beat Nicholas, stomping him while he lies on the ground, before bringing in the metal baton. Justin admits to being involved, but claims that it was only after Zach threatens him. And so he joins in the violence against Nicholas. After beating Nicholas to death, the three of them start to cover his body with branches. But before they can finish, Justin is told to leave one of his socks with the body.
The sock is crucial evidence here because the police never released that detail to the public. So that gives credence to Justin's version of events, that he is telling the truth, because nobody from the public who just read about or heard about this case would know that. That's something that police officers often do, is withhold very specific, detailed information from the public so that when they do get a witness to come forward or a confession, they can tell that it's accurate.
So it was literally just a random crime. You know, he was walking home, wrong place, wrong time. They happened upon him, assaulted him, and then forced him to come to the place where, you know, then they ended up killing him.
After hearing Justin's story, the police have enough information that they put out an alert to find Zach Linklater and Mark Thomas. On the night of September 8th, 2015, Nicholas Brophy goes out to see a friend and never makes it back home. Nearly 8 months later, his remains are found in the woods after a suspect is brought into custody. Justin Baker is brought in by the police after they receive a tip that he's been talking about Nicholas's death. But Justin claims that there were 2 other people involved in Nicholas's murder and that he was just there as part of a gang initiation.
I think that the way that Nicholas Brophy was killed was really, you know, disturbing to people because it was just, you know, it didn't have anything to do with him. The idea that someone could just be walking home, minding their own business, 11:30 at night or something like that, and, you know, like that could be the last thing they ever did just because they happened upon some people who thought that killing someone would be a good way to spend their night, like just a totally random act. Like there's no motivation behind it, so it's sort of I think it was sort of scary to people in that way.
Both Mark Bradley Thomas and Zach Edwin Linklater are arrested on April 13th, 2016.
So Justin's story about Mark and Zach is certainly enough to arrest them and may be enough to convict them. However, evidence from a co-accused or a co-conspirator is always treated with caution, and that's because oftentimes a co-accused can have something to gain by testifying against the other parties involved. Even if there's not a deal on the table, sometimes by minimizing their own responsibility, they believe it makes them look better to a jury or to a judge. So while other evidence tying Mark and Zach to the offense may not be 100% necessary, depending on how Justin's evidence comes out in court, it could definitely be helpful.
Mark is arrested in Brandon, Manitoba, and needs to be transported to Winnipeg. Another handcuffed passenger rides with Mark as they're brought to the larger city. During the trip, they chat and Mark brags about the lack of evidence against him. Mark's put into a cell in Winnipeg, where he makes contact with another prisoner. He continues to talk with the same confidence he had during his transport, believing there is no chance the charges can stick.
It's pretty well known amongst investigators that in order to get somebody to speak with you candidly, you need to make them feel comfortable. Obviously, sitting in an interrogation room is not the most comfortable place to be for the suspect of a crime. So the idea is that if you can immerse them in people who are their peers, essentially, they will feel comfortable and they will tell the truth.
Mark believes the police don't have the evidence or the murder weapon to get the court to convict him. He's positive about this because he hid it himself, discarded into a body of water where it can't be recovered. But Mark doesn't really know who he's been talking to this whole time since his arrest.
Investigators used to do it fairly regularly in that they would plant an undercover officer in a jail cell, and they'll just chat and they'll become comfortable with each other, and eventually a confession, unbeknownst to the suspect, is provided. The undercover officer would then testify to the fact that they obtained that confession while sitting next to them in a jail cell. Now, the issue is whether the courts accept these confessions as being, totally on the up and up. Are they coerced? The person didn't know they were confessing to a police officer, obviously, right? So there's a lot that goes into whether the courts will accept a jailhouse confession, essentially.
While there, he admitted to being involved in this and to killing Nicholas Brophy, to someone who was posing as another inmate but was actually an undercover officer. I think there might have actually been 2 officers. And so when it came to trial, they had to make an application to have those officers be able to testify without revealing their identities because they may still be involved in future undercover work.
Both during Mark's transportation and his time in a cell in Winnipeg are spent with undercover officers posing as prisoners. Mark repeats identical stories to both of them. It's enough to corroborate what Justin has already been saying. In November 2018, many months after their initial arrests, Mark and Zach stand trial for the murder of Nicholas Brophy. They both plead not guilty to first-degree murder, while Justin pleads guilty to second-degree murder and acts as a Crown witness in the case.
First and second degree murder are both culpable homicide. However, first degree murder generally has an element of premeditation or planning involved with it, whereas second degree murder generally does not. So an accused would want to take a plea deal and plead guilty to second degree murder instead of going to trial and potentially being convicted of first degree murder, because while both of them carry mandatory life sentences, potentially an accused that's convicted of second degree murder could be released on parole up to 15 years earlier than someone convicted of first degree murder.
As Mark unknowingly boasted to the undercover police officer, there is no murder weapon to use as evidence. But with Justin and the undercover police officer's testimonies, the case against Mark and Zach is strong. Details in Justin's testimony, like the sock left by the body and the metal baton, match what the authorities found with Nicholas's remains. Many witnesses are called, including Nicholas's mother, Tammy, and his ex-girlfriend, who he was texting the night he went missing. After months of searching, followed by more months of painful grieving, Nicholas's friends and family want justice. On November 19th, 2018, the 3 boys responsible for Nicholas's death are finally brought to justice and convicted for murder. Mark Bradley Thomas and Zach Edwin Linklater are both sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. The men jointly appeal in 2020, citing the statements made by Thomas to the undercover officers are a violation of his rights, as some statements may have been elicited by the officers. However, after careful consideration, it's determined that the evidence that he provides amounts to being from two separate undercover operations because the officers involved in the events had not exchanged notes between their interactions with Thomas. The appeal is dismissed. Justin Baker pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 10 years. But there's no amount of time that Nicholas's assailants can spend in prison that will ever make up for what was lost.
You know, like some part of me are still pretty angry from what happened, now that I'm thinking about it and reminiscing from what happened in the past.
I think having people caught and charged and convicted for the crime, it doesn't really heal the pain caused by, someone close to people and a member of the community being, taken away suddenly for no reason. But I think it does, at least give some measure of comfort that people know that the perpetrators have been caught, know that they're being punished for what they did and that they're probably going to be in jail for most of their lives in the case of at least two of them.
All too soon, he was forced to leave behind all those lives he touched. His friends and family, the people he cared for so much, say goodbye the only way they can at Nicholas's memorial.
First of all, I just wanted to say rest in peace, brother. It's been one hell of a ride. I'm glad that I met you. You're one of my best friends, and I know we don't say this a lot, but we love you so much, man. Good friends are hard to find. That's why I'm mad that you left us already. Every time we need the support in our life, you are always there standing right behind us. And all the ups and downs that we had, that kept our friendship more stronger.
Nicholas is only 18 when he's murdered and never gets a chance to live up to all the potential he has within him. When Nicholas disappeared, it brought people together, not just his own family, but people from across the city. When search parties come together, 50 to 100 people come out to help. High school students do what they can to help in the search for their friend.
So good to have you in our life. All the positive vibes every time you're around is priceless, and your jokes that is so funny, but you kept saying it all the time, so it gets annoying. Thank you for the memories, Nicholas, and thank you for everything that you've done for us. We promise to never forget, and I promise to live fully to make up for the time that you lost. We love you so much, white boy. You're always gonna be here in our heart. Thank you.
Thompson, Manitoba is called the hub of the North. It's the largest city in northern Manitoba and is known for how it helps the smaller communities all around it. Nicholas personified this kindness, and it's an unfair tragedy that his life is taken so soon.